The HOAs are known for always overreaching and taking advantage of unsuspecting homeowners, but it was high time someone put them in their place. It all began on a cool morning when I noticed Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, walking my property line with a surveyor at her side. Clipboard in hand, smug grin plastered on her face, she acted like she was measuring her own backyard. I walked right up and asked her if there had been some kind of mistake. Without hesitation, she declared they were planning to build additional homes for community growth. My jaw nearly dropped. Welcome to Prodigy Tales. Make sure you like and subscribe for your top-notch HOA drama. I told her flat out that the land she was standing on belonged to me, not the HOA. She rolled her eyes, clearly doubting me, so I pulled out the proof. I had the deed, survey maps, and even the county registry record, all showing the land was mine. For once, Karen's face dropped. She checked with her surveyor, and he confirmed what I already knew. To my surprise, she even admitted she was wrong. Fine, she huffed, we'll look elsewhere. I thought that was the end of it, and at the time, it seemed like it was. The thing was, I was preparing for deployment. I'd be gone for almost a year, and the last thing I wanted was loose ends with the HOA. I made sure Karen acknowledged my ownership and walked away believing the matter had been resolved. With everything squared off, I left for service with peace of mind. Still, something in the back of my head told me not to trust her. Karen had that kind of energy, sweet on the surface, but venom underneath. But I couldn't spend my days overseas worrying about some HOA president who had already admitted defeat. So I buried the thought, focused on my duty, and reassured myself there'd be no drama waiting for me back home. But oh, how wrong I was. Before we dive in deeply, let us know in the comments where you're watching this story from. My deployment was finally over. After months of dust, sweat, and adrenaline, all I wanted was to come home, breathe in the quiet air of my town, and check on my land, the one patch of earth I knew was untouchable. But the moment I stepped onto it, my heart nearly exploded. Standing tall where my open field used to be were 10 fully constructed houses. 10. Brightly painted, with cars in the driveways and people actually living in them. For a moment, I thought I had walked onto the wrong property, but no, this was mine. The oak tree that had been in my family for generations stood at the corner, now boxed in by someone else's white picket fence. I stormed to the HOA office, fury bubbling through me with every step. The clerks pretended not to notice me as I slammed my folder of documents onto the counter and demanded Karen. She strutted in like she was walking a fashion runway, heels clicking, smug grin wide. I laid out my deed, my county documents, even pictures I'd taken before deployment. Karen, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, we settled this before I left. This is my land. Why are there houses on it? And do you know what she did? She laughed. She had the audacity to look me dead in the eye and say she had no memory of any conversation about my property. According to her, I must have misunderstood, because abandoned land doesn't stay empty forever. The way she spun it, she made herself sound like some savior of the community. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just HOA arrogance. This was a full-blown land grab. She wanted me out of the picture completely, and she thought I'd roll over because the houses were already there. But if Karen thought I'd let her erase me from my own land, she was dead wrong. I walked straight out of that office, called up my lawyer, and explained everything. He didn't even hesitate. If they built on your land, he said, we're not just fighting for recognition, we're going for blood. That's all I needed to hear. Karen thought she could rewrite history. But if she wanted war, then war was what she'd get. The minute I sat down in my lawyer's office and explained the circus Karen had pulled, I could see the fire light up in his eyes. This wasn't just a case to him. This was a chance to crush a crooked HOA president who thought she could rewrite property law. He leaned back in his chair, tapped his pen against his desk, and said, we're going to bury her in her own lies. Give me every deed, every survey, every scrap of proof you have. I handed him the thick folder I'd carried like a Bible since the day Karen first tried sniffing around my land. Within a week, my lawyer had filed a notice of ownership and demanded an immediate injunction to freeze any further HOA development on the property. When we served the papers to Karen, the look on her face was priceless, like someone had poured ice water down her back. She sputtered, trying to talk her way out of it, But her lawyer wasn't half as confident as she was. We sat across from her at the first mediation meeting. Karen leaned back in her chair with her arms crossed, wearing a smug little smile, and delivered her excuse. He abandoned the land, she said, as if that was some kind of magic spell. The HOA stepped in and developed it for the good of the community. We brought value. We brought homes. Without us, it would still be weeds and dirt. My lawyer didn't even blink. He opened my folder, laid out the tax receipts showing I had paid every year without fail, then dropped county photos, time-stamped with the land's condition before deployment. Abandonment, he repeated. This man pays taxes. He maintains the boundaries. He has legal survey records. If that's abandonment, then I suppose your HOA just rewrote state law. The room went quiet, and even Karen's lawyer shifted uncomfortably in his seat. But Karen wasn't done. She doubled down, accusing me of being unfit to own land since I left the country. Who leaves valuable property empty for a year? She sneered. Someone irresponsible. Someone who doesn't care. That's when I leaned forward and said, someone serving his country. That's who. Her smirk faltered, but she quickly hid it behind her fake composure. It was clear this was only the beginning. The courthouse was packed. Neighbors, reporters, even curious onlookers who wanted to see this showdown between a smug HOA president and a returning veteran. Karen strutted in wearing a bright red blazer like she was going to a fashion show, not a legal battle. She had her little entourage with her, whispering and smirking, but I noticed her lawyer looked less like a champion and more like a man dragging himself to the gallows. The judge took his seat and the case kicked off. Karen's side argued first. Her lawyer parroted her talking points. I'd abandoned the land, the HOA had developed it for the good of the community, and removing the houses would disrupt families. Karen sat there nodding like a queen overseeing her empire. But the judge's expression told me everything. I could see he wasn't buying it. When it was my turn, my lawyer stood tall and spoke with a clarity that cut through the courtroom. He presented the deeds, tax receipts, survey records, and even aerial photographs of the property over the years. Every document screamed the same truth. The land was mine, lawfully and unquestionably. Then he hit the nail on the head. The HOA knowingly trespassed and built 10 homes on land they never owned. By law, my client is entitled to ownership of those structures. What they intended for theft will now become his gain. The room erupted in murmurs. Karen's face turned crimson as the reality set in. She shot up from her seat, shouting about injustice, calling me a thief, even yelling at the judge that he was favoring the military. The judge banged his gavel so hard it echoed like a gunshot. Sit down, ma'am, or I will hold you in contempt. In the end, the ruling was clear. The land was mine, the houses built on it were mine, and the HOA was guilty of overreach and illegal development. The families living there would now pay rent to me, not a cent to the HOA. Karen's little empire had crumbled in front of everyone, and there was nothing she could do but fume and tremble in her chair. I walked out of that courthouse with more than just justice. I walked out owning everything Karen tried to steal. Her downfall was nuclear, total, and irreversible. The end. Please like and subscribe for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.